So Kyle, corporately, what are you seeing in today's environment with AI, and is it affecting the way people put together corporate structures? Is it affecting the way they create process? And is the AI processes that are already in place for a lot of people and more to come, are they affecting um, the legality of things as people navigate what's happening? I know that's a lot. It's a lot to unpack, but
It's a
so
lot.
curious.
You've managed to provoke the rare yes, as opposed to it depends out of a lawyer, you know? It's yes, obvious. I think everybody and even their grandparents are on some kind of AI these days, which is super cool, but also it's created quite the wild west of where things are going to land, both from a productivity standpoint, a legal standpoint, even within law firms. It's integrated into everything, and at its best, it's a great tool, and at its worst, it can sometimes usurp people's independent ability to think. And I think, as a society, it's on us to try to keep that balance between outsourcing our brains entirely and going, oh, this is an amazing tool and great equalizer. It gives people access to information and to tools that, I mean, you would have to pay way more in the past to have.
Are you finding that um, as you're helping your clients close business, close deals, that the closings are any different? I know in the beginning the contracts might look different, but we're gonna start backwards, right? Are the closings any different when someone's selling their business or um, maybe buying a business? Are there different considerations now?
Certainly different considerations. I would say the law is always a little slower to catch up than the rest of the world, and with good reason, right? It's sort of the final say on how things go. So all of these new things come out, and then the law has to figure out, okay, how do we incorporate this into a system that is supposed to be designed to protect everybody's reasonable interests? So the flip side of that is sometimes you have attorneys that are a little more reluctant to get up with the times. They might still be using pre-printed forms from 1982 that were designed for typewriters.
Okay,
Um,
they need to run. If
they
if
need to
anyone
run.
watching this and your attorney is using pre-printed forms, run. Don't walk,
Yeah.
just run.
And it can sound petty, but honestly, it can make things take 3 to 4 times longer. Even putting AI aside, we have editing tools in, say, Microsoft Word, for example, or some people even just use Google Drive. There's just everything should be digital that can be, and the people holding on to that, it's ultimately disservice to the client because you're making things take longer and be more expensive than they need to be. So I try to incorporate technology and AI as much as I can. The two main legal databases, Westlaw and Lexis, everyone's heard of those. They've got AI that just comes. I feel like every week I'm getting an email from them like, check out this new feature.
That's amazing. That's certainly a cost savings. Like during COVID, when you all didn't have to sit in a courthouse anymore for
Yeah,
5 hours, right?
yeah,
Whatever case you were there for, they called your case on a schedule via Zoom. Very
yeah,
efficient.
yeah. Well, that was the rare situation where the law had no choice but to catch up quickly
Right.
because the show has to go on. But
Yeah.
obviously, we couldn't do it in person. So, and some of those changes are still in effect. They realized, okay, we could do things a lot more efficiently. So it's sometimes it's entrenched power, sometimes it's just who's going to be the one to go, okay, we need to change how we do this. But that kind of forced everyone to go, okay, we have no choice. And that was really a benefit indirectly for smaller firms because we were already kind of set up the way a lot of us, you don't have a lot of paperwork, everything's digital. So going remote was not nearly as big a burden as some firms I know who were still heavily reliant on paper, and suddenly they were scrambling to go, oh, what do we do? I mean, do you really want to have someone in a room scanning files for the next, 3 years? No, we do it all digital, and I think any lawyer in the modern era should.
Yeah. So, I mean, you do a variety of things. So you do corporate governance, you do corporate structures, you do M&A, right? Buy, sell, you I know you do a variety of things. One of the things that's so interesting is you work with the 1099, right?
Oh yeah, the Freelance Isn't Free Act. Yeah.
I know, I never let you forget about that because as a
Always,
freelancer
always
most of
happy
my
to,
career, it's
always
such an
happy.
important point.
Well, for the world to see the running joke that's actually true, I've been saying for the last 8 years now. Or no, is it 9 years? It might have been 2017. Is it's the best law nobody's ever heard of and everyone's afraid to use. And it's shocking. I speak to you all the time. I speak to other professionals, not just lawyers, just whoever. Nobody's ever heard of the thing. I ask literally every person I speak to, and there's maybe one or two people of all time. So, for the record, the Freelance Isn't Free Act was a state law, a city law, and now it's a state law. The most important part is that it provides for double damages plus a recovery attorney's fees when you are not paid as a freelance worker. So I'm gonna say that again. Somebody owes you 5 grand and they don't pay you. Now they owe you 10 grand and they have to pay for your lawyer if you're in New York. That's a very oversimplified way to go about it. But because I know we live in a tension where a society where people listen for 15 seconds at a time, that just sounds clip. Double damages plus attorney's fees if you're a freelance worker. Um, and when it came out, I said, "Oh, this is going to change everything." I was doing a lot of wage and hour work at the time. I had the same remedies, and then of course there's like crickets. So I started doing in person. I've done online. I've done all sorts of workshops. I've done uh, cooperative things with intellectual property lawyers. And it's been a real struggle in great part because nobody seems to know about it. And you tell people, they go, "Oh, this is great. I wish I knew about it." And I'm like, "Yeah, me too." Um, but it's tremendous. I've got one of the few summary judgment victories last I checked on this. It's a real thing. It's almost like people don't believe it. I think part of it might be the name. I think it can register a little bit like a post 9/11 relic with like the freedom isn't free thing. I think people are like it sounds more, I think to some people it might sound more like a moniker than an actual thing, but I promise you it's a real law with real teeth that can get real results like never before. You just have to use it.
That's great to know. And I'm always happy to share over and over and over again as
Yep.
often as we have to
You're
reach as
like the
many
only other
people.
person championing this. Like, hey, get paid.
Listen, I got beat once by an attorney
Yeah.
for 6 grand. What's the
Yeah.
statute of limitation?
6 years typically, I think. Maybe it's 3 years under the act. Don't quote me on that, but at least three
Yeah,
years.
it's
But
a long time ago, so I'm
but for yeah.
my issue aged out. But if it was a thing and I knew about it at the time, I would have taken great pleasure in going after my money.
Yeah, I mean it's but part of the problem too is it's often the aggrieved party is someone who's not, even if they're not living paycheck to paycheck, they're certainly living job to job. And so there's this ingrained mentality of like, I don't have time to deal with that. I got to move on to the next job that I'll hopefully get paid on. But the result and the whole reason this law came out is there's this culture where not paying a freelancer was considered as not a big deal. And which,
Well, the thing about that, and all of your business owners would understand this, and you'll
yeah,
understand this. How many times have you gotten a call and one of your clients has a problem, and then they weigh their options?
yeah, of
Is
course.
it the cost of doing business, or am I going after this, right, legally? Because the cost of that can be prohibitive sometimes.
Well, that
And right. And so sometimes we say as business owners, It's the cost of doing business.
Well, that's why I'll tell you two things on that. Number one is why I always encourage people, even if there's not a statute that entitles you to recover attorney's fees, you can certainly have this in your contract. So all my business owner clients, for example, pretty much any service contract or most of the contracts that they have, it has a provision that says if they have to sue and go to court to collect what they're owed, they also get an award of attorney's fees. Because yeah, somebody owes you, 30, $40,000, that's a lot of money. But once you realize how expensive litigation is, you might
Yeah.
say, maybe that's not so much. So the flip side of that coin, I tell people the story from that movie A Bronx Tale when Colangelo is talking with Sonny, the big mafia man, and this other teenage boy runs by, and Sonny gets all upset, and Colangelo and Sonny's like, "What are you so mad for?" He says, "That guy owes me $40." And Sonny's like, "Look at it this way: for $40, you never got to deal with that guy again." And I'm like, that's a good life lesson. Like sometimes you just got to go, you know what? You're only gonna lose more, even if you win. But nobody wants to hear that, at least at first. But part of your job as a lawyer to go, you're right. I would love to, wring this guy by the neck or whatever too. They did you wrong. However, and let me stop you from making the situation worse. You've
Let's
got a
take a
great
step
business.
back.
Exactly, exactly. Like the best success truly, the best revenge truly is success. And I think
100%.
people learn that over time. But we've all done stupid things out of spite and go, okay, maybe that wasn't such a good idea, even though
You
I might
learn
have
from
felt good
them.
in the moment.
Learn from the lessons. So, so AI you're seeing impact everything, right? I think we all
Yeah,
are in every
yeah,
aspect.
yeah.
But you're in an interesting spot. You and I've known each other a long time.
Mhm.
Um, I know where many of your clients have come from, but are you finding that with AI, because one of the things I'm hearing from people is, you know, the search for how to find anybody has changed drastically because of AI.
Sure,
So are you
sure.
finding that your clients are coming to you differently or not yet?
Not so much. I think fundamentally because our profession is so relationship driven,
Yeah.
and especially the way a firm like mine operates, I don't think there's ever going to be anything that's more potent than networking, word of mouth. Um, Even though you could find great reviews or whatever you might find through AI or any other electronic search, I think the average person is still going to give a lot more weight, including myself, to somebody I already, as we say in the networking world, like know and trust, saying, "Oh, I got the guy for that." Like I'm going to give a lot of weight to that recommendation if that's from somebody I already know, as opposed to, AI is a great tool, but it's not infallible. And if you're talking about retaining somebody to handle something that's very private or very intimate or just very confidential, I think most people go into that wanting to have some degree of familiarity and like that person still being vouched for. I think if you're operating on more of a volume, we just want as many phone calls as possible type of business,
Transactions.
yeah,
Yeah.
then I could see that working. But if you're more of like quality over quantity, and that's not just like in a financial sense, it's really in a relationship sense. Like, I think a lot of people learned when the pandemic first hit, including me, for other professionals that I utilize, there's a lot of value in being able to get the professional you need on the phone or that actually respond to your needs. And, I had a lot of business owners, clients of mine, I happen to be responsible, reaching out to me, what do I do? And it might not be a legal need. I'm like, okay, you need an accountant, you need a banker, and I'm, trying to hook them up with responsive resources. So I think that was a lesson learned for a lot of people. And I think, you can get in many instances better quality service because you're dealing with somebody that actually knows you on a real level. And so I
Sure.
think especially small business owners, they really value that because they're figuring it out too. Even if it's your second or third business, that someone's going to come up you ever heard before. And if you can go, oh, before I mess this up or before I make a mistake, let me get my lawyer on the phone or let me get my accountant on the phone, whoever it might be. That's there's a real value in that. But I don't know that
100%.
AI can fully replace that.
Well,
Um,
I was going to say, I'm bringing me full circle in the conversation, which is back to relationships,
yep,
right? So in our world, like you said, in our networking world, we have a lot of filters on how we choose to work with certain people.
sure,
In our organization, it's by invitation only, and we meet people by introduction only. And that has been for 28 years now. And that is a remarkable statement to be able to make, right?
sure,
28 years, invitation only. And then we only take about 40% of the people that we're introduced to because not everyone's a good fit.
sure.
So when you have a relationship with a high level professional like yourself, and you are a smaller firm, there's a lot of you know, touch points and hand holding if a client needs that. But not all clients need tremendous hand holding. Sometimes they just need a real conversation,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
Um,
What
and
do I do? How do I
what do
handle
I do?
It's because it's
And
not always clear if it's like a legal need or not. So like I'll use my firm as an example where we're sort of the general counsel to any business that's not so big that they can justify having a full-time attorney, which that's the majority of businesses. Most businesses don't need to spend,
yeah,
six figures a few times over on their own attorney. If you get
right.
to that size, great. I will cheer you on and say, you could fire me. I get it.
You outgrew us,
I get
right?
it.
Right.
Well, I'll be proud for my clients that reach
Sure.
that point, but that's just not the reality for most. The flip side of that, though, is, how do you balance someone not feeling like they're writing an open-ended check every month, and they're like, you can hear them listening to the money tick as the clock goes by, and I don't want to have that relationship with clients either. So with AI, it's really actually to bring it to that again changed a lot of the models in a lot of firms where the hourly model for a lot of stuff, I think is, for us, it's going out the window for most things. And I think most firms are going that way, whether it's a fixed fee or a sliding scale, however you do it. And on the one hand, it's like, okay, who needs one more subscription or one more monthly bill to foot in their life? But for especially people that understand the value of any professional services. Like it doesn't even have to be a lawyer; it could be your accountant. Um, where when they give you information and good answers to your questions, they're saving you liability, they're saving you money, they're setting you up strategically, they're helping you plan ahead. It's hard to put a quantitative value on those sorts of things, and that only really is becomes truly effective when you have a real relationship with that person because this is always how I explain to my clients. I say everyone has a different relationship with risk. Me, I'm very conservative with other people's risk because it's not my risk to take. But you might be like, you know what, I get it, but I'm gonna roll the dice anyways. And other people, they want everything super buttoned up. And our job is to make sure people are making an informed decision. Well, how can they do that if they don't know what they're doing?
All
And
right.
so by kind of taking it being like this hourly clock ticking model at all times for people, it just allows for more fluid conversation. The same, before we got on here, we caught up for a few minutes, right?
Right.
If I was your lawyer and you were paying me hourly, you would have been like, yeah, 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 we'll catch up another time, right? Because you're like, I don't want to pay you to tell me about
But
your kid's soccer
so it
practice.
impacts the relationship.
Yeah,
And this way you
yeah,
get to have the relationship, right? Still have to
yeah,
pay for the service, but you're not worried about 15-minute increments about, you know,
correct.
what my bill's going to look like at the end of the day because I decided to catch up about family and a
Yeah,
bunch of other
now it's a
things.
line item that I would say ideally over the course of a year, this is, the usual lawyer caveats is, results are not guaranteed. But in all sincerity, I would say people minimally, I would say for all my clients, that I would pride myself on if you asked the ones that I've had for a while, that I have a real relationship with, they would say this as well. They would say like there is a real value, first of all. in all, especially those intangible things. I could bore you to death with employment manuals and offer letters and stuff like that that nobody wants to read. But it's also those conversations and those relationship building type of interactions you're able to have when you shift the way the relationship is structured. And then ideally over the course of a year, we're saving clients money because we say, oh, don't do that. You know, that you got to pay that guy or it's double damages and attorney's fees. He might have been the worst employee in the world, but you know, you should have fired him before you let him work another 2 weeks. So you still got to
Right,
pay him for the 2 weeks that,
right.
you know, just little things that come up. And sometimes it's big things. And to be a little bit corny, that's what gives my job the most meaning, right? Like I don't roll out of bed going, "Oh boy, I can't wait to write that contract." Like sometimes it can be interesting, like the same way putting together a puzzle is interesting, but the truly, you know, rewarding part is
For people.
having those relationships and those interactions and then seeing your clients thrive and feel like, "Oh, I played a small part of that." So that's awesome.
Well, I have always appreciated and valued the relationship I have with you and
Oh,
your partner and Yogi. And, at the end of the day, I know how many people I've referred to you and how many different folks were in need of a particular thing. And there's nothing better than having those people come back and say, Lisa, thank you so much. They were terrific, right?
yeah.
Um, for
Makes me
one
feel
reason
good
or
too.
another. What's that?
It makes me feel good too. And I'm sure you've had situations where you
Where
say,
that
"Oh,
wasn't the case.
call this guy," and then you're like, "Man, I guess I can't send people to that anymore." And it's awkward because it might be somebody you know, and you got to call them up and be like, "What happened?"
Yeah.
Or
I can't say it's never happened,
yeah,
but it hasn't happened, I think, more than 3 times in 15 years.
yeah,
So we do a pretty good job of vetting people. So by the time somebody kind of enters our world where I would be making an introduction, I've had some real experience with them
correct,
already. And I would say you may not like everybody, but everybody is a good quality professional. And you
sure.
may not want to work with them, that's okay. But I can assure you they're not going to hurt you. They're not going to hurt your client,
No, no, they're
you
also not
know?
going to tell you what you want to hear. You know,
But I've
sometimes
never heard that about you, Kyle, because you're so warm, you're so engaging, everybody loves you.
we try. You know, I did get though, to be fair, to full disclosure in law school, I got voted most likely to ask a 5 minute question with 1 minute left in class. I was like,
I could
fair
see that.
enough, fair enough. Yeah, I was that guy in the front row that talked too much, but I don't know. Like, what are you in school for? But to engage, and yeah, that's how I
And
learned.
learn.
Like, why even go to class if you're just gonna sit here like this and not, you know, this is
Wow.
not interesting to you? We're talking about powers of government. I don't even have nerd glasses to push up, but I would if I.
Well, today that conversation is more relevant than ever, but I'm not going to go down that road with you at the
Well,
moment.
I'm flipping that on. We're not going to go down it, but just one little thing on that because I do feel like to a certain degree we've entered the society where we've politicized everything. Like I'm just waiting for someone to come out and be like, "Oh, your team thinks we should have a sanitation department. I don't think we need to take the garbage out anymore." Like people are just so at odds. So I'm trying a new tack now, not here, but just in my personal relationships with people is I'll say because I'll say I'm not talking politics. I'm only talking social issues because people are like you hear the word politics and immediately it's like people
Oh,
think they're
get their
gonna
back up and they're
fight.
ready
We're
to fight.
the sworn enemies, or we collectively hate everybody else, and that's
You know
not
what
it.
we talk
Uh,
about with
uh,
ARG? You'll remember this. We haven't talked about this in a while because it hasn't, thank goodness, we haven't been in a presidential cycle. They're rough. They're
yeah,
very rough. But we don't talk about politics, the
sure.
people of politics, politicians, but we talk about policy. And how
Yeah,
does the policy impact our clients and what is that going to mean, right? If the new administration does X, Y, and Z, how does that affect how we all react, right? What does that mean for us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't have a dialogue. Not like we're just gonna go like this over and over. We have to be able to have a conversation. And part of that is disagreeing, and that's okay. I'll
Yeah.
happily agree or disagree, and we'll still go have some barbecue and a beer, and it's
A
all good.
100%. I was going to say, you and I can have a conversation. You and I have had conversations.
Yeah. Well, now I also force people to start from a point of agreement. Not like I'm gonna make you change your mind. It's something as simple as that. Hey, do you like to have people over to your house, right? Does it make you feel good when you have like a nice dinner party? Maybe everyone has a little wine, whatever you like, and listen to some good music and play a few games. Yeah, me too, right? Like, yeah, all right. We're not like so different that we can't, we can only see each other that way. Just sometimes it's like I feel like so much of what people consume and so much of the models for dialogue that they have teach them the opposite. So I think it's also important. Yeah, like you don't want to be in a format like this arguing about your favorite politician or whatever. But I also do think like people need to be able to have a conversation and realize, oh, we're both okay. We had the conversation and we're both alive. Oh my goodness.
I,
You
I
know?
was very blessed. I grew up with one parent that was a Democrat, one parent that was a Republican, and they often debated at the dinner table. So I grew up knowing it's okay to love somebody that doesn't agree with you. It's
Yeah.
okay to have a disagreement. It's okay to not believe what someone else believes, even though you live in the same house
So
and
love
you
is a
love each
bird.
other, right? So
Yeah.
I was very blessed to grow up with that perspective. Um, and my family encouraged conversation and debate.
Yeah.
Tell me why you think that. Help me understand how you came to that conclusion,
Yeah.
right? What are your data points that brought you to that, right? I feel very blessed that I was raised that way.
Well,
But I
to
can
bring it,
say, wait, because
good.
I have to not let this conversation go
Oh,
by
I'm going to bring it
without.
back. I'm going to bring it back. So to bring it back to what you're saying, to be an optimist, because I feel like you must be an optimist. I think AI could be a great tool for that. It's almost like I know there's always going to be problems with AI and somebody's conspiratorially tweaking something, but generally, in theory, it could be a great umpire for these types of conversations where someone's like, well, blah, 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 crime statistic. You can be like, hold on, actually, you're wrong. Whatever it is. So whether it's in your personal interactions or bringing it back to business, it's a tremendous tool that's whether you like it or not, it's much like I think one of these guys famously back in the day was like, the internet will never replace the fax machine. You're like, that quote didn't age well. So I just feel like it's here and we have to figure out how to like intelligently and most importantly, like consciously integrate it in what we do so that it stays a tool and not a replacement. So, who knows, maybe what is the day in the Terminator, when the machine's awake? Blanking on the name for that.
Oh, I'm not a fan. I can't help you
Edit it
there.
back in. No, it's not Judgment Day. Oh, now I'm gonna look like, I'm not a real fan. The day the
No, it's
machines
okay.
win,
But we
the
can
machines win.
agree, Kyle, we can
Yeah.
agree that if you are a New Yorker,
Yeah.
the energy in New York last week was
Yeah.
palpable and vibe. Every train I took, every public space I was in, I was in the city downtown for parade day on Thursday. All love. All
Yeah.
love. And
It's
it
so
didn't
good.
matter. And I haven't felt that way in New York. I can't even tell you the last time.
Yeah. See,
It was
unity is power.
remarkable. So New York just has to hold on to that for a little while longer.
Well, also people should reflect like, hey, you know what? It's a lot better when we're like generally united, not just, fighting all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
Okay. Well, genuinely united in common goals
Yeah.
feels really good. It's the problem is when the goals aren't common. They're
Well,
not, they're not the same.
this is true.
It
This
doesn't
is
feel so great. But on that note, I just want to thank you. I always enjoy speaking to you. You're always so balanced in your perspective, which is what makes you a great corporate attorney. Because when people come ready to fight, or even adversarial, when there's a a purchase or a sale, regardless of what side you're on, people sometimes think their business is worth more than it is. People sometimes think that their terms of exit
Sure.
are reasonable when they're really not, or and vice versa. Their terms of entry, right, when they're on the purchase side. Um, there's so many nuances to buying and selling a business, and I'm going to leave it on that note, that just the one thing, but you do endless things because it's where I've had the most experience with you, introducing you and sharing you with folks who are interested to buy and sell their businesses. And you
Exciting
keep
time for people.
the, well, I just want to share the feedback is always the same. He didn't create any undue stress. He
Good.
actually was the person that de-escalated the drama, right? And I've found in my experience in years past, not at this point in my life, but attorneys sometimes complicate the situation. I come up with talking points. These are my deal points. Could you put that into legalese, please? Um, and inevitably, it comes back with conflict and
You got to keep your own
repercussions.
ego out of the way. That's the hard part, you know. There's a
And
lot of
I guess the
value.
billing, the flat rate also, that structure eliminates a lot of the excess hours, right? Excess
That,
time.
yeah, and it's exactly. And in the end, it's something that you would always review. Obviously, attorneys, we're still obligated to track our time. So
Sure.
I can still look back after, the period of months, ideally a year. And I would say like the goal for both parties should be to look back over the course of the year and go, okay, how much did I use you? And did the rate I pay, reasonably reflect that? Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less in terms of, if you match the billable hour versus the flat rate. But if on the course of a year, it works out about the same,
Hmm.
you're not overpaying, even though you're like, people get a little trepidation about paying a fixed amount and you're actually enhancing the relationship because you're taking that ticking clock completely off the table for most things. Now, litigation that might not happen. If there's like a particularly complicated situation, that might be another conversation. But for a vast majority of any business's day-to-day needs, there's no reason it wouldn't work under that model. And I think once people kind of switch that mindset, they go, oh, this is great. It's a line item in my budget. I can plan ahead for it. And also, every lawyer's biggest worry is your client doesn't call you about a small problem until it becomes a big problem. But they don't call about it saying, oh, it's a small problem. I don't want to spend money. Now it's like, hey, should I deal with this now? And you go, yes. And then you stop it before the proverbial floodgates open. And
Right.
so that's just an example of ultimately a cost savings as well. Because as you know, and many professionals know, as problems compound, so do the costs. So,
Absolutely.
you know, I try to keep my clients out of trouble. So it's
And you do a great job of it.
thank
Um,
you. We try.
so I'm thrilled. Thank you so much for giving us time, talent, right? A
No
little
problem.
exposure to what's happening with AI in the legal world. I think it's kind of like when the internet first started. I helped my attorney
Yeah.
understand what the internet was and why he needed to write contracts the way I asked him to.
Yep.
Um, and I feel like a dinosaur when I talk about those things, but
Well,
this is no different, right? This
they were
is
still,
just
it'd
scratching
be,
the surface.
I mean, just to like in modern times, if you were to look up somebody, not even just attorney, but any like business, like if they don't have a website, isn't a party who's like, I'm not so
Oh, are
sure,
they real?
right? And especially, and if they don't do anything via email or electronically, um, it definitely, I think it gives an impression to the average modern consumer of not as credible. And AI might not be as obvious a thing as like a website, but I do think that people should ask not just are you using AI, but how are you using it? Because everybody's read those horror stories in the news of, a lawyer who, went like this and had the AI type a memo that they submitted to court, which you're like, I don't know how
Listen, you
you
can,
know,
there's no accounting for common sense,
yes.
regardless of what kind of degree you have. You
But
still have to use a little common sense,
I
right?
agree, but where there's temptation to cut corners, some people will. And so I think, like I go to doctors, I always have questions that I ask them so that I make sure it's a good fit. Not everyone's a good fit for everybody. I would say like, not just for your lawyer, but for pretty much any professional in your life, say, do you use AI and how are you using it? And how are you making sure there is some human element that mitigates the risks against like hallucinations and misinformation? And if they can't give you a good answer to that, I would be a little leery of using their services.
Oh, we might have to do a whole nother have another conversation about specifically AI hallucinations because that is a real thing. And I
Yeah.
don't think people are talking about it enough. The fact that you just mentioned that is great. Um, but it's
Well,
a real deficit at the moment.
could do a joint with intellectual property attorneys, the AI and who owns what. It's really where that's coming in the most sort of nebulous way right now is if you're in a creative industry
Yeah.
and you're using AI to aid in your creative work that you then give to your clients, it's not clear what the ownership level is. In theory, you could put in the idea for a commercial into an AI tool, and someone else might have the same idea and they get a similar looking output, but we didn't copy each other. So who owns, there's so many iterations right now. It's both very interesting and also like, does anybody own anything? I don't know. But it's interesting.
It's going to be interesting to see how the courts navigate that and what the initial rulings are because there isn't a lot that's been ruled on yet, right?
No, I mean, right now we have basically if it's AI generated only, even if it's through you saying, okay, tweak it this way, tweak it that way, but you're just telling it what to do, it's not protected by copyright. So it requires a level of human, I forget the technical term, like human interaction or human creation for it to be protectable. Um,
Hmm.
it's a classic example too to me of we have a set of laws that was written before this thing came out, and clearly we need to figure out a new way to address this. A more familiar example for people would be like cryptocurrency. Is it a commodity? Is it a currency? What's kind of an in-between thing. And it's like, well, rather than try to smash it into old rules, maybe we should have a different structure around this instead of, so it's like when you start trying to interpret things from a framework um, that predates the thing you created, and the thing you created is dramatically changing society, you might need some new laws around that, or
Yeah.
at least rules. I know you got to go, but I can ramble forever.
No, it's not about me having to go. There's so much to talk about and so much for you to share that endless questions, but we'll do part two of this.
Oh, it was a pleasure. We didn't even talk about chess, and I still got it in.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Kyle.
Lisa. Take care.